Hi everybody, I'm so glad that you're here and that we can continue. Thank you, Christoph. Did you see that lightning? Okay, that we can continue learning together. Go, leave, go. Oh, it's raining, isn't it? Don't take my. Do you guys hear this? Okay. I'm just hoping Dan doesn't die. Go.
Okay, I'm going.
Go.
All right.
Go. Okay. So, anyways, I'm starting a new YouTube channel, and I'm so excited that I'm going to have the opportunity to keep teaching you guys, and we can keep learning together from each other, no matter where you are. Some of you are in college, some of you are post-grad, some of you are still in high school, but we all love theater, and we're here for the same reason. So I'm really excited to be able to do this for you. In my new YouTube channelage, not all the broadcasts will be live. There are going to be some pre-recorded little snippets of video, and I'll have videos on things like technique, I'll have tech videos on how-to, product reviews, new things that are coming out in the tech world or makeup or whatever we can use in theater. I'll have book reviews. I will go over, a little 15-minute video on acting teachers and their methods. So I'm really excited to be able to just kind of spill knowledge into a format where you guys can kind of take it in as you have time and as you want to. So if you subscribe to the channel, you should get an email when I update it, and I hope to do so multiple times a week. That's the joy of being kind of unemployed or freelance employed right now. I'm working on 2 separate shows and an installation art piece for this weekend in this old hotel. It's really cool. So I'm not technically unemployed. I'm still doing my art, but I want to share what I learn and have us keep learning together. Today's topic, is directing for the theater. I chose this topic. Zoe had mentioned that she wanted to learn about this. And I chose the topic primarily because I had it readily available. The sources are in my mind, and I have a lot of books on it here, so I didn't have to order a lot of supplementation to get ready for this. So I'm going to go over some of my favorite directing techniques and some of the basics. This is going to be a multi-part series. There's no way to cover directing in 1 hour. There's just no way. It could take a lifetime. So for this session today, I'm going to be concentrating on these 2 books. I have a lot of directing books, but these are the 2 this is brand new. These are the 2 that I'm going to be concentrating on today. Notes on Directing. I just got this off Amazon this week, and it has just come out pretty recently. I'm not exactly sure when, but this is amazing. This is 130 lessons in leadership from the director's chair, and I enjoyed this. I read it in one sitting, and I've kind of whittled down the most important things that I also relate to that I'm going to share with you today, because I think that they can make or break a production, and I can't say enough about this book. Love it. The other book I'm going to be using is an oldie but a goodie. I used this at college at UVA. This was one of my course books in directing, A Sense of Direction. I've had this since college, and I go back to it with every show that I do. So if you're looking for a really good hands-on book that takes you all the way through the production process, this is going to be your best friend. It starts with picking a show and goes all the way through casting, production, tech elements, and then the reception from critics, and it doesn't get much better than this. So this William Ball book is definitely one that you want to keep on your reading list or on your bookshelf, no matter where you are in your theater career. Okay, so I'm going to get started, and hopefully we can learn a lot from these 2 books. In the coming series on Sundays, I'm going to always do a live one about this time. So next Sunday, I am going to be heavily using this book, this Peter Brook book, which I also got in college. It's a little more theoretical, a little more artistic in nature, and pairing it with the oldie but goodie, a lot of you know, Directing for the Stage, which was going to talk a lot about our favorite friend, blocking. So if you're interested in that, today's going to cover the basics, and we're going to get a little more in-depth with Theater Directing 102 next week. So look forward to that. Okay. The beginning of directing starts with picking a show. And if your heart's not in it, you're not going to be in it. I firmly believe that the director should pick the show. Sometimes you'll have an opportunity or someone will ask you to direct a show, and that can work if you're into it. Never accept a directing job just to direct a show. You have to be into it, and you have to have that spark that drives the whole show. So, assuming that you've picked the show or that you've accepted a job directing a show, or if you've written a show and that you're going to be directing it, The next step is concept, and we talk about concept over and over and over again, but it's really hard to understand exactly what concept is. Well, I'll try to break that down for you right now. In the Notes on Directing book, he had a really good point about for every production he does, he starts and says, I need a picture. He picks a picture or a painting that encompasses the entire concept of the show. So once you've read the script and you whittle it down to its basic parts, he picks a picture and says, this is going to be my concept. That picture is so important because he uses it to flavor everything else in the production, and I think it's a really good technique. I've never used it personally, but I'm going to try it with my next show. So, for example, he'll pick, a painting, and if the color palette in the painting translates to the color of the costumes in the set on stage, or the texture in the painting, or if it's an outdoor landscape scene, that natural element will come into the show somehow. What it does is it gives you limitations, and a lot of you know that art and creativity thrive when there are limitations. So my first point of advice, and I agree 100% with this book, is to limit yourself when you start to plan, because planning is crucial. And if you can limit yourself, the creativity starts to blossom, and then you can have a really, really tight show that has a strong concept and that is unified in its vision. Art depends on unity, and a lot of times beginning directors will just throw things on stage and they won't be unified in any way, whether it's because of budget restraints or whether it's because they have all of these assets that they need to use, or because 10 different people are telling them how to direct the show, and we get a mismatch of things on stage that don't qualify as a unified piece of art, and the audience is left wanting kind of at the end. So, assuming that you start... Oh, by the way, if you have questions, ask them in the chat bar. It should be on your screen to your right if you're not in full screen mode, and I'll answer them as we go along because I can see them. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, establishing a concept, you're good to go. I'm going to give you the do's and don'ts, and this is whittled down, like I said, from these two books. I'm going to give you the do's and don'ts of theater directing. And each one I'll try to explain it a little bit so that you know it. You can take notes, or you can just listen and casually remember these things because they're helpful for directors but also for actors for sure. Acting and directing go hand in hand, obviously, but I learned as an actor more from my directing classes a lot than my actual acting classes. It's kind of a reverse psychology that way, but learning the foundation of directing makes you a much better actor. So hopefully a lot of you actors are here and you're learning something from this that you can add to your craft. Okay, the first do. Identify the story's compelling question. If there's not a question or a conflict, sometimes we call that conflict, then there's no art there. So if you can whittle it down to the concept and identifying that question, the audience gets at the end of the show the answer to that question, or is left with multiple answers that then they can make their own conclusion with. It has to come full circle. You've got to have a compelling question. So do identify that very early on in the process and keep it in the back of your mind as you go through and learn and rehearse the play. Really, really important. Okay, now we'll do a don't. Don't finalize designs too early. A lot of people fault me on this. I'm a slow working director when it comes to designs, and by all means, what I'm telling you is not written in stone. This is just how I work. And this is what this book has agreed with me in our circumstances. Don't finalize designs too early. Theater is a creative and organic process. If you put something down on paper and you don't want to have your designer redo their watercolor or what have you, oftentimes your play will suffer because it's evolved, the actors have evolved, and you have come up with solutions and I don't know, different things than you started with. Please, please, please do not finalize designs. Yes, you can start out thinking of something. And yes, you can use inspiration from this central painting or picture that we've decided you need for a concept. Yes, 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 yes. Don't finalize it, though. Keep letting it grow, and it will blossom into something that you never thought could be that robust on stage. Let those designs keep evolving with the acting. Okay, don't try to do everything that's in your head. As a creative person, you have lots of ideas in your head. You get a concept and you want it to be exactly what you see in your head. This book here says aim for 60%. If you can get 60% of what's in your head on that stage, you're doing okay. Our imaginations are so vivid that with budgetary and space constraints, there's no way to get everything that's in your head. You are going to get bogged down in tech, you're going to get bogged down in acting workshops, and you're not going to get the production off the ground. So aim for 60%. Don't, limit your imagination. Keep dreaming those, but know that everything that's in your head isn't going to go exactly as planned and appear on the stage. Okay. Do make every element that you do put on the stage essential. Okay, this is a design thing and an acting thing. If it's not integral to the plot or it doesn't advance the character in some way, don't put it on your stage. This includes blocking, this includes costumes, this includes set. Chekhov has this quote where he says, if there's a musket hanging over the fireplace in Act 1, somebody better get shot in Act 3. And he has such a good point. Those things muddle up our creative product. If it is not integral, please don't put it on the stage. If somebody doesn't need to cross in a scene because there's no tension building or no reason for them to move, don't move them. It's really, really simple. A lot of times we over-direct things. We want to feel artistic and we want to feel like everything we're putting out there is for a higher purpose. But if the script doesn't call for it, your number one asset is your script. If it doesn't call for it, let it go. Let it go. Simplify, simplify, simplify. That's one of my major points I hope to get across in this directing workshop is the more simple the better, a lot of times. Okay, don't change the author's words or the composer's score. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's illegal, number one. Number two, it's everything written on that page is essential. Just like everything you put on your stage should be essential, the playwright or composer meant for everything to be as it is on the page. Don't think you are better than the playwright who crafted the play. You don't know more than them. You might have a different take on it, but if your take requires you to change their words, not going to happen. You cannot do that. There are one exception to this, is when you're cutting something for a smaller portion, for a competition piece, or you're making one play into a one act, but you need to have permission from the people who give the rights, whether it's Dramatists or Samuel French, MTI. You need to have permission to make those cuts, and those cuts should be made thoughtfully with adherence to everything that's going on in the play to keep it in its original form. You can't cut something to make the play different than it otherwise should be. It can't have a different outcome, it can't have a different feel or a different flow. Keep those author's words intact. I strongly, strongly encourage that. Please, you have to. That's part of the fun of directing, is kind of coming up with your own spin, but keeping the author's intentions intact. Okay. Do, however, keep the audience guessing. Now, there's an acting technique that says keep a secret. You always have a secret that you're keeping from the audience, and that kind of gives depth to your character. Well, keep the audience guessing with your staging as well. If they know what's going to happen from go, it's boring. Okay, so keep that element of interest going and really keep the audience guessing in any way that you can. If you set them up for something, maybe surprise them with something else. Okay, a lot of what I'm about to get into is kind of the nuance of directing and how to be, in my opinion, a good coach. A lot of directing is coaching, and when you're coaching someone, there's a lot of tact that's involved in doing so. And we're all going to be guilty of kind of breaking some of these rules because of stress and circumstances. But I'm going to lay them out there how it ideally in a perfect world should be. Christoph's question is awesome. He says, how will the audience keep guessing if someone has to get shot in Act 3? Keep them guessing along the process, how they're going to get shot, when they're going to get shot, who's going to shoot them, who's going to get shot. You might not know. That gun is there, though. If you're staring at it the whole time, you need that validation at the end to say, okay, that's why that gun was there. You know what I mean? So it's good to have clues along the way. It keeps your mind active as an audience member, and we're really aiming to do that as directors, is keep active so that your audience doesn't kind of glaze over and just, fall asleep during your show. I'm sure we've all been to shows where we've fallen asleep. I almost did the other day. So keep them guessing. It keeps them on the edge of their seat, okay? Now here we go with the nuance, all right? Don't bury your head in the script during rehearsal. You're the director. You're there to watch the people act. A lot of people that are directing bury their head in the script and take copious notes. That's why you have a stage manager. Your idea and your purpose is to look at the acting and to say what's working and what's not. You're a coach. You're not an actor. So another don't is don't get on stage and act the part for your actors. Not only is it insulting, but it limits creativity. They are not puppets. Actors are incredibly creative, and all of them are incredibly talented in their own right. Let them do the acting, you do the coaching. Your job as a director is to coach each actor to be the best version of a character that they can be. Right? Your job as a director is not to get an actor to act the way that you think the character should be. This is a huge problem in a lot of productions and a lot of directing that I see. Acting, the director is this is not meant to insult anyone in particular, but a lot of times a director is someone that isn't meant for the stage, had a hard time on the stage, and still thinks that they can do it better. And they try to make the actor into what he or she believes to be correct. There is no correct in acting. There's honest and believable. Your job as a director is to help the actors portray an honest and believable version of the character that fits with the script that the author wrote. I hope that makes sense. So in no circumstances, this is a hallmark, no, do not read an actor's lines for them, ever. Ever, unless you're reading it in a blank tone to indicate which line you're picking up the scene from. Under no circumstances can you act a line through voice or otherwise, through blocking or voice for an actor. It is the most stifling. I'm sure we've all been there as actors. The most stifling thing you can do to an actor, whether they realize it at the moment or not. Eventually that catches up with them and you're ingrained in their head about how to do it. And some ways around this, some of you might have questions like, well, what do you do when they're totally missing the point? What you do is you ask questions. You ask a lot of questions. You say, why are you doing that? What do you think the character means to hear? What is your objective? And we'll go over those in the next video. Objectives and tactics and all of those things when we get into the meat of the rehearsal process. But you ask questions and the actor comes up with the answers so that they can actively portray it. Otherwise you have puppets on stage and that genuine feeling of being wrapped up in a performance is going to be null and void for your audience. So under no circumstances should you be acting for the actors. Okay, I said my piece. That was a big one. The other part of nuance is say thank you. Do say thank you a lot. In the rehearsal process, that can be something as simple as saying, thank you 5, when the stage manager says, take 5. That can be, hold please, thank you. But what it also can be is a quick thank you at the end of a rehearsal to an actor. Thank you for bringing all you had, or thank you for showing up today even though you're sick. Thank you for your addition to the costume department. Saying thank you as a director earns your trust. It earns compatibility, it earns so much that you can't put into words, and your production really can expand and can become more robust if you say thank you. If you're genuinely thankful, if you have gratitude for the art that you're making, and for the people that are spending their time making that art with you. I think it's so important to keep that respect level there. It might sound obvious, but it's something to note. If you're going to direct a show, a lot of times we're under such pressure that we become mean and we become demanding. And we're like, just do it. Just do this. Why can't you do this right? I'm guilty of it too. We've all been there. But if you can just take a step back and think about what you're thankful for, everyone will appreciate it. This leads to the next don't, which is don't ever lose your cool. We've all been there. I've been there. I've lost my cool a ton of times. For every time that I have lost my cool, though, there are 10 other times where I've kept it in check. You have to keep it in check. And you're not going to be perfect, but you have to. Losing your cool in front of actors, in front of technicians, makes you look foolish. And that's it. You're the leader of this whole production. You're the leader. You're there to model and to guide everyone in the production team to make the best art possible. If you're losing your cool, it's unprofessional. It's unacceptable. So if you do happen to lose your cool, go back to thank you and go back and apologize, because people will accept a lot, especially if you apologize for it. They understand that you know that that's wrong. Losing your cool and not apologizing for it is not acceptable. You have to be the bigger person. There's no place for ego in directing. I know. It's acting, it's theater. We have ego all over the place. But this is the most important role that you can have and keep your ego in check. So much of what you do is leading other people, but it's not for you as a director. It's for them as artists, and it's for us as a production team, as the piece of art that it's not your piece of art. Just because you've directed some people toward a common vision, it's not your art. You couldn't have done it without them. And keeping that ego in check is really, really integral. Okay, I'm going to get away from that. You understand. Be a nice person. Don't lose your cool. Now, we're going to go to the audition process, all right? Since we're starting kind of at the beginning, we've got our foundation there. We know what makes a good director. And if we start with auditions, something that I thought was absolutely brilliant that this book brought up, A Sense of Direction, is that in an audition, an actor is going to be the worst that they ever are in their whole acting career. You have to imagine all the pressure that the actor's under, all of the nerves. I mean, it's awkward because you're sitting there staring at them. They may not be prepared. You're never as prepared as you want to be for an audition. They're at their worst. And remembering that and not expecting perfection and being open and honest and humble during an audition, and kind of, some directors will put their feet up on a desk or take their shoes off to kind of lighten the load and lessen the stress in the audition room. Some directors will get up and shake hands. Some will be very calm and casual, and that kind of thing I think is really beneficial to helping the actor calm down and know when you are casting that that's 90% of your job. I know it sounds crazy, but 90% of everything you do depends on casting. And there are different numbers thrown around in different books, 60%, 70%. It's more than half of your job is casting. So you really need to look at people's resumes. That shows you a ton. It's not everything, but I would recommend, and I've seen this in a couple of books that I've read, but from personal experience, to cast based on your instincts and resumes more than look. Sometimes you see a person that comes in and they look the part and they're perfect. But you look at their resume and it's for the lead role on your show. You look at their resume and they've never carried a show before. They've never been a lead. Unless you know that person and you know they're ready for it, that's a dangerous leap, because then you have Old Faithful that comes in, that's led a lot of shows for you and is very reliable, doesn't quite look the part but can grow into the part. That's the person I would pick. My instinct and my gut would always go with the person I know is going to do a good job, regardless of look. There are costume and makeup, and there's a lot of cool things that can happen in between. Having an artist grow into a role is a lot more genuine of a product than having an artist who looks the part and having an actor who can just be himself or herself on stage. It works in limited circumstances, but I wouldn't rely on that for everything. And that's called typecasting or something like that. I don't really think that is the best way. And a lot of you know that I am all about picking the shows for the people you know that are going to audition. I don't think that's typecasting. I think that's smart. I think if you have a group of people that is always around and they're always going to audition for your shows, it's called a company in most circumstances. It's a pretty sworn and true company. Pick shows that you like. Try to go for 2 actors for every part. So a show that I know I have 2 people that are auditioning that could one part, just in case something happens. That's part of your job. So casting and play selection, I put that under the casting umbrella. They work hand in hand. If you don't have people to play those parts, don't pick the play, or work really, really hard to recruit people. Okay. Hopefully the stream's still happening because it keeps turning orange and red and then orange and then red. I don't know what that means. But I'm gonna stop right here for a second because we're at a situation where the director does not coach, rather they work with you like a puppet. What can you do as an actor? Okay. First, you're not better than the director. Christoph said his video stopped. I don't know. Again, question. Sorry, it's raining here, so I know it's going to be in and out, but I think we're good now. Now, not everyone is qualified to direct. It's a degree to do it, and even if you do get a degree, there's no saying that you're going to be able to relate to people or you're going to be able to keep your emotions in check. There's no kind of pre-qualifications to direct theater. You can just do it if somebody will let you. And it waters down the profession a little bit, I will agree. And there's a lot of times where young directors are just learning how to do this stuff. And there are a lot of times where experienced directors have fallen into ruts or traps. And they can start treating you like a puppet. Because inevitably it's easier. It's easier to do. If somebody can just imitate what you're doing and you put them on stage, you can put a production a lot faster. If this is happening to you, you can't get in a confrontation with a director. It's not professional as an actor, and you might not get hired again to work with them. I'm going to speak as if we're working in professional theater. But what you could do is work something up and come back to the director and show them something that's more along the same lines that they were doing. Under no circumstances as an actor would I imitate what they were doing for any reason. I would try to see where they were coming from, where the director was coming from. Like, oh, maybe he wants me to find the anger in this scene. And we'll talk about finding anger in a few minutes. I have some cool notes on that. Because back to the script and try to find that anger and try to harness it in some way. If that doesn't work, and you have maybe a contract that you have to keep doing the production, I would still try to stick to your guns as much as you could and try to come up with your own solutions to the problems or the readings that you've been given. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to work like that, and you shouldn't be forced to work like that, you don't have to. Unless you have an equity contract and you signed it your life away. You don't have to work like that. And there's artistic differences are cited as separations all the time. When you have artistic differences and you can't get past them, irreconcilable artistic differences, I would back out of that commitment. Or have an honest discussion with the director and say, I don't feel comfortable with this. I feel stifled. I feel like a puppet. I can't act like this. I'm working on my craft and this isn't helpful. I would have a frank discussion, and if that doesn't get you anywhere, I would back out. That's what I would do in that situation. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. Okay. Now, let's get into, you've picked your parts, you've picked your perfect dream cast for your perfect play, and now you're going to stage it. We're going to get into blocking next week, a lot about blocking, but there are some things that on my do's and don'ts list that can get you started in thinking in that direction. Do love triangles. Triangles and groups of 3 on stage are wonderful in any kind of design. If you're an interior designer, hey KJ out there, groups of 3 work. Clusters of 3 things together work. It's beautiful to our eyes. We love that. So if you can, Look for triangles. We'll talk next week about triangulation and getting your actors up and moving. Try to find those, or groups of 3 things you can use. So yes. Keep that in mind. Do allow for space between actors in a tense scene. Do. Tension, think of it like a rubber band. The farther... Let me get my hands in here. Wait, I have mine too big. My wingspan is too big. Okay. The farther you get away, the more the rubber band stretches. And that tension is so key. Oftentimes, what you think about, your instinct is to put actions like really close together, like up in someone's face when there's a lot of tension. The wife and the husband get up in each other's face. Well, the tension's already broken there. So if a husband goes to strike a wife, start them far away. That tension, as long as you're in the same plane of sight and you're not split focusing, we can talk about that next week as well. Keep them far enough away that the tension is building, and then let it snap when the husband goes to strike the wife. That's what we're waiting for. Just like Alfred Hitchcock says, it's not the actual gunshot that scares us in horror. It's everything leading up to the gunshot that scares us. And the same is true for theater. Let that tension build and let the audience get kind of wrapped up in that and then break it. And that can lead you to some very successful moments and avoid that all-forsaken melodrama that we all try to get away from. Tension is your friend. Work with it. This is on your don't list, don't aim for laughs. If you try to make something funny, it will fail every single time. If the actor goes in with genuine and heartfelt, clear, actable objectives, those are your verbs, something will be funny. Playwrights wrote it to be funny, it will be funny. Don't ever say, oh, we're going to try for a laugh here. We're all guilty of it, okay? If something's not working, we go back and revisit it and try to fix it so that we get the laugh we need, but we don't start that way. You don't start a rehearsal saying this is going to be a funny line. Oftentimes you'll get on stage and people will laugh at things you didn't expect them to laugh at, and that's proving my point perfectly. You can't plan for that kind of thing. You just play the character, and you get your actors to play the character as truthfully as possible, and those comic moments will happen. Sometimes you can... This isn't line delivery, sometimes you can stage things for a laugh. You can have people popping in and out of things, which is why those really comic shows have slamming doors, like noises off and things like that. Audiences love when playing peekaboo with actors. They love it. So having people pop in and out, you can stage things for laughs, for sure. But line delivery, it doesn't work. Okay. Okay, I think we're almost done. I have 2 more do's. Do find a facing angle. And you're like, what's a facing angle? Well, looking just like I am, someone straight on is really unflattering. It makes us look flat. The audience can't see dimension like they should, which is the same thing as flat. So just find a facing angle and give your actors something in the back of the room to kind of shoot for, so that they know when they're front full on, that they're actually kind of, their head is tilted a little bit. Their body can be straight, but the head should be tilted a little bit. That goes for profile as well. You guys know that. A lot of you know that. Profile is the worst. So try to avoid anything where the face is flat. We always are shooting for angles. A lot of times is in tech as well. 45-degree angles work beautifully on stage. So if you can get the actor to move his or her head to a 45-degree angle, and this is particularly hard in like dining room table scenes, and this is going to lead me to my last do. Do get your actors standing. Sitting actors are sitting ducks. They are boring, and I want to fall asleep. Do whatever you have to do as far as stage business to get those actors standing on their feet. It's very, very important. So if you have a scene set around a dining room table and you have all the people along one side of it, get them up somehow, whether they go and get another drink to pour, or they stand up and rearrange their jacket, or they go light a cigarette. Give them stage business to keep that movement going on stage, and try to move them into triangles, which we'll talk about, I said, like next week. So keep the movement going and try to avoid that full-on look. It's kind of jarring, and a lot of people you don't notice it until just something feels weird. something feels weird about the show, or it feels corny, or it feels overacted, and a lot of times it just has to do with angles. So it's a little trick of the trade. Just get them, and next time you go to Broadway, check out those angles. Very rarely does an audience, even in Les Mis or something, when they're doing this huge aria, do they stand facing just at front. Their feet will be at an angle, they'll be cheated out a little bit. So keep those angles going, and keep actors standing and moving as much as possible. Okay, now I have some Hallmark quotes and things that I'm going to try to explain to you. Hopefully this is working. If you guys want some questions answered, there'll be some time at the end for specific questions, so keep them in your mind. Okay. Number 1, every scene is a chase scene. What does that mean? I can already hear the questions coming. Character A wants something from character B who doesn't want to give it. Every single scene ever put on a piece of paper. Okay, with the exception of maybe some absurdism. Some of that's not there, which makes it absurd. Okay, so when you're having trouble analyzing a scene, or actors are having trouble with a scene, always go back to the foundation. What does character A want from character B that character B doesn't want to give up or give into? That conflict is what, like we said at the beginning of the stream, that's what guides plays in general. So if you want to start there, a lot of times just answering that question can open so many doors for your actors. And if you start at the beginning of a rehearsal process with too many questions, you'll never get it on its feet. So answer the questions that you need to, do your actors' homework, and go through that table work quickly. Get them up on their feet, and then when scenes don't work, go back to these building blocks and really start to analyze the scenes that don't work. That's my advice. You can overanalyze, and we're all academics here. You wouldn't be watching a live stream of Directing 101. Okay, so don't get too academic with it. A lot of theater directors do that, and they spend too much time at the table. You start with your table work, then get actors up, and when scenes that aren't working, scenes that don't feel genuine, that's what I mean when I say not working, then you go back to these basics, these things that I'm giving you. Start with the conflict. Where's the conflict? And really iron that out between the scene partners. Okay. Every actor, this is number 2, every actor has a tell, and that is from this Notes on Directing book. I keep showing you these because I want you to get them. Every actor has a tell. This is something that they do when they don't know what to do. It's their nervous habit. It's the thing that they don't realize they're doing. The beginning director will blame the actor. Okay? They'll say, oh, you're doing, and like I said, we're all guilty of all of these things. You're doing that thing again. Stop doing that thing. Okay, well, they're doing that thing because you as a director haven't guided them into what they should be doing instead. So as soon as you see a tell, use it as a telling sign for yourself as a director. Oh, instead of criticizing that person, since you found out what their tell was, it'll be very apparent with every actor after you work with them just a couple of days. Instead of saying to them, stop doing that, address it once, but then from then on, when they revert to that, give them more direction. Ask them more questions. I think the majority of a director's job is to ask questions. You're trying to get a real performance out of an actor. That's your job, and we've been over it a couple times today. So you do that by asking questions. Once they answer the questions, a lot of times those tells will go away. They'll just rid themselves. The other thing that you could do, if that's not working, because sometimes an actor thinks they're doing something that they're not actually fixing, is to give them stage business. And that's for beginning actors especially. Give them something to do. A lot of times it's with their hands. They don't know what they're supposed to be doing on stage because it's weird. We're acting out real life, in realism, for example, on stage in front of a fake medium like an audience. So it's hard. It's really hard. So put yourself in the actor's shoes and say, what would help me if I were up there? And a lot of times just giving them an action will help them. Have them wash the dishes. Have them shine their shoes or read a newspaper. Give them something to do. And a lot of times that will fix those tells. Okay. This is a Stanislavski quote from our old friend. If you are playing a good man, look for the bad in him. If you are playing a bad man, look for the good in him. Now that's an quote. Okay. Think they're doing better than they are on the stage, an honest character. Guide them to. Everyone has a secret, and I think that's directing tips of all time. It changed my life when someone told me that. Everyone has a secret on stage that the audience mention. And again, just keep asking questions to your actors about what, like Sweeney Todd. Okay, you're a terrible person, but if you just play evil, it's gonna read us flat. Because we have dimension as that on stage to have any hope. Genuine. Okay. Anger, this is, I promised we were going to talk about this. Anger is always preceded by pain. Now, this is one of those tips that can help you in an angry scene, just like the tension that I was talking about. When an actor is playing something too angry, you know those scenes where people just get all shouty at each other and there's like barking? It's very uncomfortable as an audience member, and that should have been on my do and don't list. Don't make your audience uncomfortable. We all know that. Most of you watching this know that. And those barky scenes can be very, very uncomfortable. So a lot of times, to perpetuate that anger and not have it blow up too soon, look for the pain. Look for what's causing that anger, because anger is always caused by pain, and capitalize on that objective and that emotion and see if that can pull you through to rise that anger to the boiling point until it explodes. That building of tension is essential in any dramatic work. Even in comedy, sometimes that's essential. So really, really look for the pain, and it's not obvious that you should do that, but it's true. It works. The book said, I'll just quote the book, this Notes on Directing book, when an actor jumps to angry choices, look back together for the moment when the hurt occurs, because that is what's more important and more interesting. So find the moment and capitalize on it. Sometimes it'll be a sentence before, but oftentimes it'll be at a different part of the play. And again, if we follow it full circle, we as an audience understand where that anger is coming from, so it doesn't feel as explosive and out of the blue. Okay. Acting solutions are always better than technical solutions. Sometimes you'll get to a part in a script and you're directing it and you don't know how to stage it. It doesn't work. You say, okay, we don't have the ability to stage that. We're just gonna black out, or we'll have some fog here to cover it up, or we'll costume her differently. No. For example, I'm going to use American Idiot, okay? I'm not the best director of all time. I'm not pretending to be at all. But I'm going to give you an example where I think it worked, at least, okay? Feel free to comment below if it didn't. American Idiot, Tunney's leg is shot off. He's supposed to be one-legged and have an artificial limb. There is no way on God's green earth I could have my actor walk on one leg. There's no way without him falling face first that we could bind his leg. There's no way that costumes could have done that. I couldn't have gotten an artificial limb. It just wasn't going to work for us. It just wasn't going to work. So we rely on acting more. And we capitalized on the pain of the suffering, that his injuries weren't life-threatening, but the pain was lasting, and that is what the real hurt was from, instead of the physical pain as much. And I think it worked. He had a hurt leg, so we didn't totally change the script. We kept it intact, but we concentrated on the acting. And we said, what about that war changed you? And we looked into PTSD and how that comes about, and how, his fever-induced hallucinations. And we really worked on the acting. We worked on the choreography to make sure that that was as special and as impactful as it could be. And we shied away from the tech element that we couldn't do, because tech can't save your show, but acting can. And I think in that instance, it really worked. So always, always, always go with acting over tech to solve your problems when you need them. Okay? Every scene in every play wants to move as fast as humanly possible. This is called pacing. And a lot of beginning directors don't understand this. I don't understand it a lot of times. Because you think, oh, we'll slow it down like a symphony, and we'll build tension, and we'll rumble way down low. No. As soon as you slow it down, the audience, we get bored. Our attention span is 3 to 5 seconds. After that, we're done. It has to move fast. This doesn't mean that your actors talk fast. That's not what I'm saying. It means that the progression, the pickups are fast. And a lot of times, the boring shows have slow pickups. You'll have the end of one line, wait. wait, pick up. No. That doesn't make your dramatic acting better. It makes it worse. It makes it unbearable. As fast as humanly possible. If your show is running slow and muggy, speed it up. Get a metronome in there. Get those actors going. And even if it's a slow funeral scene, if you can get them moving, it will be better. Okay, I'm almost to the question and answer period, so get your questions ready. Okay, the most important thing a director can do for an actor is to awaken the actor's intuition and assure that intuition that it's going to be witnessed and used. Use your actors! They are brilliant! They have wonderful intuition. If you can foster that intuition so that they start doing really great things on stage and you don't have to tell them where to stand or where to move, you've got a genuine character moving about in someone else's shoes on your stage. I don't understand why you wouldn't use that. I have a really hard time blocking. We'll go over it next week. I have a hard time with it because that doesn't rely on actors' intuition. If you foster good acting and you foster good creative relationships, their intuition as that character will lead them in the right direction. And I firmly believe this. So use it. Let them know. Ask them questions. Where do you think you should move? Why do you think you should move there? Oh, that's amazing. I agree with you. A lot of times they know better than you do because they are in the character's shoes. So you as an outsider don't know all the answers. Use their intuition, value it, and thank them for it all the time. It's not a crutch for you as a director to ask for actors' input. It's not, I'll repeat it, it's not a crutch. It's being smart, just like really great casting based on a company of people you know. It's smart for your job, okay? Use those actors. They know what's up. Really, 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 they do. No matter what their age is, they know. And they have a lot to offer, and they will do better acting when they feel that they can contribute to their process. Okay? One of the greatest errors, and this is something that you should avoid, is breaking a system in a show. Okay? We set up systems, ways of being. So, for example, in our town, everything is pantomime. We set that up from the beginning, but then we bring in one prop. Or we have an anachronism. We have a play that takes place in the 1950s, but we have a 1970s serial box. Really work to keep those are tech related, but work to keep those systems in check. This goes for diction and dialect. This goes for anything that you have your character always moving left to right, and we'll talk about that next week again. Always moving left to right. Unless there's something that's different in the text, don't break that. It's sloppy. It's not unified, and it often waters down your work. So really make sure that everything that you're putting on that stage is part of a system that you create and you follow through the whole production. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. I have tons more for next week. I have a whole lecture prepared, so I hope that you tune in. I'm ready to answer your questions now. We have about 7 minutes where I can answer your questions one-on-one about what you have. I also want to tell you that a lot of you have auditions for shows in college or auditions to get into college. I can also use this format of Google Chat or of YouTube to help you on your auditions. So please let me know. Email me at missamypoe@gmail.com if you need some help or you want some feedback on those auditions or picking your materials or anything like that. I'm here to help you. Even though I'm in Texas, I'm still right where you are, wherever you are, and I'm ready to answer your question. I'm reading what Jack wrote. Yeah. I agree, Jack. I agree. All right, who has questions? Oh, good question, Christoph. Okay, how can you learn your tells? You can ask people. They know. Ask your actor friends. Don't ask the director. Ask your actor friends. They'll tell you. Everybody will tell you. It's something we don't talk about, but everybody knows everybody's tells. I firmly believe that. I do this all the time. That's one of my tells. Ask people. I think that's seriously what you can do. And fix whatever problem is making those happen. Really, really ask questions. So when you're doing it, you could ask a fellow person to watch your scene work, and when you start to do a tell, ask them. and say, oh, that's because because a lot of times you're not conscious that you don't know what to do. And then you do your tell, and somebody can tell you. Tell you your tell. Ask people. Feedback. Audience as a mirror. That technique works. Okay, what should a director do if an actor needs help doing something, an accent, acting older, for example, and has no idea how to do so? Okay, first of all, this is directing and specialized coaching are two separate things. A lot of times a director is not qualified to do some of the things that you're asking for, an accent or acting older. You can get physical coaches, you can get dialect coaches, you can get coaches of all kind, people that specialize in this area. Just because you are the director doesn't mean you have to specialize in all of those areas. A lot of times directing is just resource hunting. Sometimes you could find for them maybe a tutorial on how to do the accent. Say, I don't know how to do this accent either, but here's this great tutorial I found on YouTube. Here you go. Or you rent them something from the library, or show them an example of someone acting older. Find a tutorial online. This then becomes part of your arsenal, and the next show you do, you know how to do it. So those resources that maybe have had to in the past, that directors know how to do everything, and even experienced directors know, and you're not going to either. So look for people that have specialized in these areas or have gone to school in these areas, because we go to school for, if you're a directing major, you go to school for everything and how to communicate with people and how to run a company. You don't go to school for accent. That's curriculum. So you rely on your own research and your own learning. I would recommend wholeheartedly is to find someone or find a resource for your actor and learn along with them as you're learning the process. Okay, so your actor is or not getting it, okay? I've already told you, you can ask so many questions. The verb thing, I know you guys are like, oh God, not another verb. But finding and helping that actor find actable verbs, these are different than just regular action verbs. My objective in this scene is to seek gratitude. Okay, I can't act that. I don't know what that is, okay? But to intimidate, I know what that is. As an actor, I can act that. To thank, no, I can't act that. I can say thank you. I can't act those words. So really work, and I have a list that I'm going to be putting up next week on some really great actable verbs. Verbs that show themselves on stage and that are part of the human condition, and you can't really screw them up. So that's what I would recommend, Chris, is to really focus in with that actor, sit down with them if they're not getting an honest portrayal that you think should work on this stage, and say, what are you do what for? And that's the whole list of things that we're going to get into. More than just a little verb. It's got to be a whole sentence to do an actable way. And I think that will really help. Hopefully that helps. Let's run through impulse, where the blocking is different show to show. How can tech elements look like? Okay. I'm going to do a lot of videos on tech, some standard videos that I just post, not live. But there are times where they're called, it depends on which. Be on your mark at a certain time. Other on an impulse type show, I need boundaries. So in your head as an actor, you have boundaries that you're within, and you can only move from center stage to stage left, but you can move anywhere. And we set up the boundaries, and then on certain marks, those specials, they make some really great design choices based on those. So talk to your tech people, the director will do, and make sure that you are in light. You will have boundaries though. Your impulse only go so far when you're of tech. chemistry be honed, or is it director's duty to cast actors who already have chemistry? Oh, goodness, chemistry. Okay, I only have 1 minute to answer this. Zoe. Chemistry is not between the two human beings. It's between the character. So you can hone it. You can hone it in that once that actor steps out of their own shoes and into the shoes of the character, which is not easy, and we'll get there. You know, this is a 3-part series, maybe 4, but definitely 3 parts. Once they step into that character, that chemistry, yes. With actable verbs, yes. A lot of times, chemistry is about keeping secrets, and you keep those verbs from each other. We've talked about a little bit about this in the Sam Shepard play, Fool for Love. Keeping those secret verbs and changing those verbs up can really develop, especially a sexual chemistry, for sure. So, between two human beings, no, you can't hone that chemistry. That's awkward. No. And you don't want it. Most of the time, if someone's involved in a relationship in your show, you don't want that on your stage. Most of the time, that's a detriment, and you have to work past it because they fall into their own relationship rather than the character's relationship. So you really want to work on making sure those actors can step into the shoes of their character, and we're going to work on that next week and beyond, because that is getting into some really good character work and some acting exercises. I hope this gave you the basics of directing 101. Next week we're going to talk about blocking, and the following week we're going to talk about developing character. And that should give you a well-rounded kind of expose on how to direct. A lot of it, again, is personality and respecting the art and the actor. Have a great night, everybody. You can reach me at missamypoe@gmail.com. I'll put it in the down bar below. And I'm going to also put this up on the YouTube channel, so you can rewatch this if you want to. And if you know anybody that missed it, they can click on it and rewatch it as well. Have a great night. I miss you guys so much. Bye!